I came here sort of knowing what I was coming here for, but I also wanted to leave a lot of paths open for myself. When I first started painting this, I think it was about reflecting what my intentions were behind coming here, how I was looking at multiple different paths and how I was allowing myself the time and the space to go wherever I go from here. What has made this painting very interesting for me is that I have allowed it to grow as my learning of this place and this experience has grown. I had a basic sense of how I wanted it to look in terms of just how I wanted to use the canvas size, because it's a panoramic sort of a space and canvas. But what should this panorama be made of? I wanted it to be a depiction of my emotional journey and not just icons and symbols of what Vietnam stands for. While those are beautiful in themselves, I think what I was seeking here was not a bucket list experience, but more to reimagine the beauty of this place and this experience for myself. So as I was painting this, I think I allowed it to sit and grow with me. So I would every day add some new elements, and those elements are a mixture of the experiences that I've had here. As we started spending time in the city, there were certain colors that started staying with me. And I think the most important was the yellow color, and how it has changed over time, but it has still retained its basic yellowness. And I think I got curious on what was the reason behind the color yellow, and as I started to read more, I understood the cultural significance of it and what it really means for the people in Vietnam. And also I think it's just as a color, it's beautiful. Despite so many years, it still exudes a positivity, and I saw it all over Old Town, and I think once you see it, you can't unsee it. What I also found very interesting is how when textures start to form on yellow, it still looks really beautiful. Of course, there is a cultural significance in terms of what it signifies in terms of prosperity and how it's auspicious and how it's meant to bring positivity to the people of Vietnam. I love that the city has retained its original essence by retaining the color yellow. So I think that had to be in the painting. I think that I knew that I can't make a painting about Hoi An without it including yellow. And I also didn't want to present it as though it's new. I wanted to present it as though it's a reflection of the history and the journey that the city has seen and how it's retained its core essence, which is why you see a lot of yellow included in this painting. As we understood that this was going to be a part of the Interlude's reception, I wanted to borrow from the core colors that you guys have, which is the green and the yellow. And the green obviously is very symbolic of all the greenery and the vegetable village within which this sits. So these were kind of like the colors that I knew that I was going to work with. I knew I wanted the painting to have an earthy, humbling feeling. I think, like I said, I allowed this painting to evolve every day, and I spoke to the people who are core part of the journey of the Interlude to understand what does it really mean, what is the meaning of the word interlude. And I think it was very interesting to learn how the core people of this team look at it. And to quote them verbatim, they define the Interlude as a place of quiet self-reflection. And as I understand the story more and more, it's come up with a lot of good intentions in terms of how it's intended to create a positive creative space for artists. And there's certain feelings that have stayed with me, which have been a big part of the series that I've been working on, which is memory in transit. And I think those elements have found their way into this painting as well. If you go and start looking at some of the parts that are actually my favorite within this painting, you'll see these eyes popping out, right? And I think my idea behind this was that there's always I think it's a little bit of an inside out and an outside in. It's just how are you looking at the world, and then how are you remembering it later. I liked having them hidden behind the many layers, again to signify the history that this place stands for, and also somewhere allowing the person the moment to still look out and explore. It's also a little bit of a fun game for me to allow viewers to take the time with a painting of this bigger size. My intention here is for them to take it in as one big painting, but then come closer and experience its many parts, because there are lots of different stories within this larger story. In terms of like how the painting evolved, what was also interesting was that we also had a lot of these art workshops while I was here, and we worked on lino cut print. And that was the first for me. So I made this lino cut print that you see right there, which is of a girl peeping out, which I was working on, and I think the reason I wanted to create that was because I thought it kind of had the opportunity to sit within my paintings, and I found a way to include it within. And I really like that because it sort of also signifies a new learning that I had that made its way to the painting as well. And to me, this place is sort of like the beginning of a journey, which is why I depict that through the archway to just sort of show that this is like the first step. And I think for me, like the personal sort of state of mind that I came in with was that I need to take that first step to take all the steps in the future, which is why you see like a lot of steps all over the painting. You see small windows of opportunity, and this is just a reflection of my state of mind when I came here. And what I somewhere believe is what other people will also get here if they seek it. The texture here was actually formed as a result of using some of the wood dust that was used to make the furniture here. We had a moment in the studio where I was trying to look for some material that can create this texture, and the studio manager here helped me with that. And to me, that has a lot of meaning, because the painting is as much a part of this place as this place is a part of this painting. Because this is, in my eyes, this place is like a place of evolution and growth, which is why I wanted it to have a slightly atmospheric and hazy feeling, which kind of allows a viewer to dream with it the way I allowed myself to dream by coming here. I would say there are a lot of like smaller paintings in this larger painting, and I wanted it to be that way. It's in the reception, so I imagine like when people are waiting here, they'll have the time to actually spend and observe the many parts. If you look at the cloud-like structure, if you look at the steps, if you look at the windows, all of these are symbols and motifs that I've used in the previous paintings as well. To me, these are kind of symbolic of journeys, of travel, of transit. And I also did not want this painting to look static or that it's stuck in time. I want the eyes in the painting to sort of have a piercing look so that it stays with the person who looks at it, because I think it's important to be intentional when you come to a retreat like this. And that's why I have put in these small elements which feel like the painting is looking back at the viewer, because I want that memory to stay with them as they start their journey here. And I also wanted the viewer to get lost in it and allow themselves to travel within the painting the way I traveled when I was here.